In the shadow of medieval Europe, when moonlight was feared and whispers could condemn, a peculiar bond was forged between women and felines that would echo through centuries. They weren't mere pets, they were vessels of ancient power. The whispers of history tell us of court records naming cats as demonic conspirators, of midnight gatherings where felines watched from shadows, and of a time when a woman's solitary companion became evidence of her darkness. But what forgotten truth lies behind this bond that turned ordinary creatures into agents of the other world? Long before the witch trials cast their shadow across Europe, cats walked a curious path between worlds. In ancient Egypt, where Bastet reigned with her feline grace, cats were not just revered, they were believed to carry divine essence within their silent paws. Picture moonlit temples where priests bowed before creatures with gleaming eyes, believing they glimpsed eternity in those golden orbs. The Egyptians didn't worship cats merely for their rodent-hunting prowess, though surely the pharaohs appreciated not sharing their grain with mice. They recognized something otherworldly in the cat's independence, its ability to see in darkness, to move between visible and invisible realms. As Christianity spread its wings across Europe, these ancient connections weren't forgotten. They were transformed. The old gods became demons, their sacred animals tainted by association. Yet in remote villages and hidden valleys, the old ways persisted like stubborn embers. Women who kept the ancient knowledge of herbs, of birthing, of healing often kept cats as well. Not as demons, but as companions in a world growing increasingly hostile to feminine power. But what if these feline companions served a purpose beyond mere companionship? What if they were guardians of a threshold between worlds that modern minds have forgotten how to cross? In the firelit shadows of medieval cottages, a transformation was occurring. As Shakespeare would later write in Macbeth, "Fair is foul, and foul is fair." The familiar became unfamiliar, the helper became the hindrance. By the 13th century, Pope Gregory IX's Vox in Rama addressed growing concerns about heretical practices. In the complex religious landscape of the time, where the Church worked to maintain theological order amid various spiritual movements, certain animals became associated with ritualistic practices considered contrary to Christian doctrine. The papal bull reflected the sincere theological understanding of the era, where spiritual warfare was considered a very real phenomenon and symbols carried profound significance in religious practice. Imagine the medieval worldview, where the physical and spiritual realms were inseparably intertwined, and religious authorities bore the solemn responsibility of guiding souls away from what they genuinely believed were dangerous spiritual influences. Within this context, animals that moved in darkness or displayed mysterious behaviors could be interpreted through the theological framework of the time. The medieval mind saw the world as a battlefield between divine and demonic forces. In this cosmic war, nothing could be neutral, especially not creatures that prowled by night, with eyes that reflected firelight like tiny flames. The cat's independence, once admired, became suspicious. Its nocturnal nature, once practical, became concerning. Its connection to women, once natural, became subject to scrutiny. In the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches, published in 1487, Inquisitors Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Sprenger codified what many already feared, that witches kept animal companions or familiars who served as intermediaries between the witch and darker forces. These weren't just pets. They were believed to be supernatural entities in animal form, suckling from unnatural teats hidden on the witch's body, carrying messages and performing malevolent errands. But were these accusations born of genuine theological concerns, or were they reflections of a society struggling to understand the natural world through the lens of their time? Beyond the smoke of burning pyres and the fevered pages of inquisitors' manuals, ordinary people told different tales. In the quiet corners of England, familiars appeared in folk traditions not as demons, but as helpful spirits. Puss in Boots, that clever cat of fairy tale fame, hints at an older tradition where animals possessed wisdom beyond human ken. As the English poet John Donne might have observed, no man is an island, and perhaps no witch was truly alone. even when human company was denied her. The familiar in British folklore was often a fairy in animal form, a being of the otherworld who chose to serve a particular person. In exchange for food, shelter, and respect, these spirits would protect the home, bring good fortune, or help with magical workings. Far from the demonic servants described by witch hunters, these were relationships of mutual benefit, and often deep affection. Court records from witch trials tell us of Margaret Flower, who confessed to having a familiar named Rutterkin in the form of a cat. Of Elizabeth Francis, whose white spotted cat named Satan was allegedly given to her by her grandmother, along with the secrets of magic. These confessions, extracted under torture, reveal less about supernatural truth and more about the fears of a society struggling to maintain control in changing times. Yet what if, beneath the layers of fear and fantasy, there existed a kernel of truth about the special bond between certain women and their animal companions? The most fascinating twist in our tale emerges when we look beyond the smoke of history to the practical reality of medieval life. What if the connection between women and cats was neither demonic nor mystical, but something far more mundane, yet no less powerful? In medieval Europe, solitary women, widows, midwives, healers, often lived on society's edges, maintaining households without male protection. In such circumstances, cats proved invaluable companions, silent guardians against vermin that carried disease and devoured precious food stores. These women, with their herbal knowledge and healing skills, understood something their neighbors might not, that a cat's purr could calm a fevered child, that their presence could bring comfort to the dying. The historical records of the Wellcome collection reveal something remarkable. Many accused witches were simply elderly women who talked to their cats as companions in loneliness. In their isolation, these women developed deep bonds with their feline friends, speaking to them as one might speak to a person. To suspicious neighbors, this intimate communication looked suspiciously like the giving of instructions to a demonic servant. Perhaps most telling is this: during the height of witch persecutions, areas with fewer cats saw dramatic increases in rat populations, bringing with them waves of disease. As Matthew Hopkins, the self-proclaimed witchfinder general, swept through East Anglia in the 1640s, he left behind not just bereaved families but villages suddenly plagued by vermin. What if the real magic of the familiar was not supernatural at all, but the ancient, practical alliance between humans and cats against the very real threats of hunger and disease? The familiar, be it demonic agent, fairy helper, or simply loyal companion, reveals more about human fears and hopes than about the supernatural. In times of uncertainty, we seek to name our terrors, to find patterns in chaos. Sometimes, tragically, we find those patterns in the wrong places, in the eyes of a cat, in the solitude of a woman. Today, when a black cat crosses your path and superstition whispers at the edge of your mind, remember, you're hearing echoes of a time when the boundary between natural and supernatural was as thin as a cat's whisker, when women's wisdom was feared rather than valued, when a companion animal could be seen as something more and something less than what it truly was. The bond between humans and their animal companions remains as powerful today as it was when cats prowled the edges of medieval villages. Perhaps there is a kind of magic in it after all, not the magic of spells and demons, but the everyday enchantment of shared lives and mutual care. Loved this tale? Join our circle, subscribe for more animal lore. And remember, this weave of history and wonder comes from ancient sources and modern scholarship alike. A tapestry of fact and folklore spun for your contemplation. What familiar spirits might be lurking in your own home, I wonder?